أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. الحمد لله رب العالمين والصلاة والسلام على رسول الله وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين. رب اشرح لي صدري ويسر لي أمري واحلل عقدة من لساني يفقه قولي. السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته. I'd like to thank the management of Great Heights Academy and especially the principal for inviting me. And I hope that I do justice to the topic, which is guarding the hearts and guarding the screens. Bismillah. Some of you have been here for 6 years, maybe some of you a little less. Regardless, you have endured in those years. You have endured waking up early to get ready for class, even on days when you just wanted to sleep in a little more. You have endured being forced to study at prep time, even when you weren't feeling it. You have endured having other girls in your space, even when you just wanted to be left alone. And most significantly, you have endured being told what to do all the time. And now, the freedom that you've been yearning for, the freedom that you've been anticipating, the freedom that maybe you've been demanding is yours for the most part. You're going out into the unconfined world. No one will be there to make sure that you get to class on time or even get to class at all. No one will be there to make sure that you study or eat or dress properly or speak politely or perform your salah on time or even make your adhkar. No one will stand over your shoulder to see who you're talking to or who you're chatting with. Nobody will be there to make sure that you come back home on time. In the unconfined world, you get to make most of your choices. You get to choose. And it may sound glamorous, because freedom always sounds glamorous until you have it. So let me be the first to tell you that it is much easier to be told what to do than to make your choices yourself. Your parents, your guardians, your teachers, they might take the leash off you. They may now step back and let you call most of the shots. But Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will always ultimately call the shots. We are never ever weaned off of Allah's directives and guidance, and that is a gift. As you go out into the unconfined world, you will meet people. You may be fortunate by Allah's grace to meet people who will cheer you on and encourage you on the path that you started on. But you will also meet people, because that is the nature of the real world. You will meet people who are not young girls like yourselves, who do not share the same values, who are not evolving and growing through life at the same pace as you. You will meet people with very dissimilar values. Sometimes they're actively seeking to sabotage all the years of work that you've put in, all the years of work that your teachers and your parents have put in. They will call you, sometimes they will entice you to things and ways that you will struggle to resist. One of the most difficult spaces to navigate is the internet and social media. And for a lot of you, that is your norm. That is what you've grown up seeing. Social media is just an extension of your life. Social media, though it is made up largely of real people, it is not like the real world. On social media, people get to choose who they appear as. People get to use filters, right? To edit their bios, to deliberately curate posts. People can easily sell a facade. They can sell you a story that they want you to believe. Anyone can be anything, or at least seem to be anything on social media. And this is why when you enter this space, the internet, social media, you have to navigate it with caution. And the best form of caution is the taqwa of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Allah tells us in Surah Al-Fajr, إِنَّ رَبَّكَ لَبِالْمِرْصَادِ. Indeed, your Lord is ever watchful. And in Surah Al-Inqitar, Allah tells us, وَإِنَّ عَلَيْكُمْ لَحَافِظِينَ كِرَامًا كَاتِبِينَ يَعْلَمُونَ مَا تَفْعَلُونَ. That over you there are watchful guardians, and they're constantly writing everything that you do, and they know all that you do. Social media started as a space to connect, to stay in touch with the people that we know. Our families, our colleagues at work, friends, former classmates, and so much has changed in recent times. Social media and the use of social media has evolved. It has become a space where people find people find fame, people find even money. We have witnessed so many people reach stardom through a viral video. Many who have racked up nominations and awards and brand deals from simply being able to grow a following. And it's enticing. The number of couple stories that we've seen on blogs whose love story started from a sliding into the DM. And maybe some of our parents here don't know what sliding into the DM means, but I know that the girls do, right? Okay, so I won't say more. These couple stories, they can be very tickling, right? Some of them will move you to tears, right? Some of them, many of them actually rack up comments like, oh, and ooh, what a beautiful love story. But let me be the first again to remind you that there is no barakah and there is no sustainable joy in anything that is attained through the displeasure of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. But romantic relationships are not the only relationships you must be cautious of in navigating the virtual space. Even friendships and followerships. The people that you choose to follow online, those whose content flawed your timelines, those whose stories you keep up with, they are the people that influence you. They shape you and therefore they make or break you. When you follow them long enough, you will start to speak like them. You will start to act like them. You will begin to think like them, and eventually you could become them. The Prophet ﷺ, he gives us an analogy in a hadith that is recorded in the Sahih of Imam Bukhari. He says that the example of a good companion in comparison with a bad one is like that of the musk seller and the blacksmith. From the first one, that is the perfume seller, you would either buy some perfume from them or at least you would enjoy the good smell. And from the blacksmith, you would either burn your clothes or you will be disturbed by the bad smell. And a practical example of this is, and especially if you're from northern Nigeria, in fact, I think most part of Nigeria now, we're familiar with Turaruta, the incense. And there's that one auntie or that one cousin who loves to burn incense. And every time you go to a house, you come out smelling like incense. You may not have burnt it yourself. She may not have given you any of the incense. But sometimes your clothes will be smelling or scenting rather of that incense for days on end, right? And then remember when it's Layya, that's the big Eid, right? When we're sacrificing or slaughtering rams. And everyone has to come out because it is Layya. So even on days you're not cooking, you're outside. And what happens is your clothes pick up from the smoke and the fumes of firewood and things like that. And many times you have to take a shower. Even after taking a shower, you can still smell it on your clothes. And that's the exact analogy that the Prophet gives us regarding the people that we hang around with, or the people that we keep company of. So maybe every time you're about to hit a follow button, ask yourself, is this person a perfume seller or a blacksmith? At this point, I would like to offer a 5-point guide to guarding your screens by guarding your hearts. The first is to guard your gaze. It is much easier to let our gaze wander over our screens. But Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, who is cognizant of our gaze, in reality is cognizant of our gaze even on our screens. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala tells us in Surah An-Nur, and tell the believing women to lower their gaze and to guard their chastity. The second is guarding your content. There's a trending audio on Instagram, and maybe you've heard it before, that says everything is content. And that has become the reality of social media, to the extent that we share even the most intimate and private of information, simply for content. The concluding part of the verse which I earlier stated from Surah An-Nur, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, and not to show off their adornment except only that which is apparent. In another verse in Surah Al-Kahf, which is a famous verse, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala tells us about the day of Qiyamah and what the state of the criminals, the mujrimeen, will be on that day. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, وَوُضِعَ الْكِتَابُ فَتَرَى الْمُجْرِمِينَ مُشْفِقِينَ مِمَّا فِيهِ. What would they say? He says, وَيَقُولُونَ يَا وَيْلَتَنَا مَا لِهَذَا الْكِتَابِ لَا يُغَادِرُ صَغِيرَةً وَلَا كَبِيرَةً إِلَّا أَحْصَاهَا. That on the day when the book of deeds or the record of deeds will be made plain to the people, the mujrimun would say, woe to us. What type of book is this that records everything? Whether it is small or big, it has enumerated it in that book. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, and they will find everything that they did. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will not do injustice to anyone. So every time you put up a story, a video on TikTok or a reel on Instagram, every time you make a post or a snap, send or reply to a DM, maybe ask yourself, do I want this to be in my record? The third is guarding your speech. Not every post deserves your comment. Not every trending topic requires your opinion. Not every message necessitates your response. Allah tells us in Surah Al-Ra'd, He is the knower of the seen and the unseen, the most great, the most high. It is the same to Him whether any of you speaks secretly or openly, whether one hides in the darkness or goes about in broad daylight. For each person there are angels in succession, before and behind him. The fourth is guarding your engagements, your likes, your forwards, your reposts, your reshares are just as important as the kind of content you're posting. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says in Surah Al-Ma'idah, help one another in goodness and in piety, and do not help one another in sin and transgression, and have the taqwa of Allah. So every time you seek to engage, whether that is to leave a comment or to like or to repost or to share, maybe ask yourself, am I enabling this good and piety, or am I enabling sin and transgression? And the fifth and the final point is guarding your relationships. I have mentioned enough about this. And so I would like to remind you of what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says about relationships that I built upon transgression and disobedience. Allah says in Surah Al-Furqan, on the day of judgment, the people who made friends that led them astray, what would they say? They would say, woe to us, or woe to me. I wish I had not taken such and such a person as a friend. Indeed, he has led me astray. He distracted me from the reminder after it had come to me. And shaitan is ever a deserter of man in his hour of need. I leave you with the advice of the Prophet ﷺ to Ibn Abbas radiallahu anhu, who was maybe at your age or even younger at the time. He said, young man, I will teach you some words. Be mindful of Allah and He will take care of you. Be mindful of Him and you will find Him at your side. If you ask, then ask only from Allah. If you need help, then seek it only from Allah. Know that if the whole world were to gather in order to help you, they would not be able to help you except if Allah had written it for you. And if the whole world were to gather in order to harm you, they would not be able to harm you except with what Allah had written for you. The pens have been lifted and the pages have dried. Finally, I congratulate you, the graduates, and especially you, the parents, the teachers, the caregivers, the guardians and guides, for your commitment to nurturing and cultivating these beautiful young women. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala accept from you. May He maximize your efforts, and may He continue to be their ultimate guide, guardian, and protecting friend. فسبحانك اللهم وبحمدك أشهد أن لا إله إلا أنت أستغفرك وأتوب إليك.